His name was Kevin Systrom, and he was the developer of one of the best designed apps you've probably never heard of. He created an app called Bourbon, named after his favorite drink. And what you could do with Bourbon, it was a GPS-based location sharing app. You could give ratings and rankings. You could even give restaurant reviews. Not only that, you could award stickers and badges to your friends. It was like the ultimate party/networking/stalker-friendly app. It was incredible. In 2010, Kevin had raised over $500,000 to develop this app and take it to market. A few months after launch, though, he realized there was a slight problem. No one was using the app. It was only a few hundred active users on the app, so they were rapidly burning through their investment capital. So Kevin and his team made the heart-wrenching decision to shut down the app. But before they gave up completely, they wanted to take a closer look. And what they found was people weren't so keen on checking in with where each other were going. They also didn't use the cool badge or ranking systems. They were using Bourbon to do two things: take pictures of their cats and take pictures of their food. Now, this was in 2010, and I am ashamed to say that we as a society have not advanced much beyond this. Can we agree on that? So they went back to the drawing board, and a few months later, they rebranded themselves into a little startup called Instagram. Day one of relaunch, they had over 25,000 downloads. Day one. Killed it. A year later, they were bought out by Facebook for $1 billion. And lest you think that Mark Zuckerberg is a fool, today, Instagram is valued at over $37 billion. And what research has shown is when you give people too many options, they become overwhelmed, right? So it becomes this, you don't want to make the wrong choice, so you don't make one at all. It's actually called the paradox of choice. Too many choices leads to no choice. Have you ever had to turn down the car radio as you're driving around looking for an address, right? Our brains can't optimally process multiple inputs at once. It just doesn't work that way. We're much more effective when we're able to focus. And specifically, when we're able to focus on small, doable action steps. It's what I like to call small wins. That's what my talk is about. And a series of small wins leads to great results. Are there any runners in here in the room? Any runners? Okay. On purpose? You run on purpose, right? You're not running away. You're not in imminent danger. Okay. So I have a friend, just checking. I have a friend who runs on purpose, and his name is Phil as well. I said, Phil, how's your training going? And he's a runner. Like, he wears these bright orange shoes. He's got the short shorts, tight shirt, has to Vaseline everything down. Think about that one. And he keeps his times. He's a runner, right? He's one. And I said, how's your training going? He said, it's going well. He trains 3 half marathons a year, and he's trying to break the 2-hour mark. Now, if you're a runner, that probably doesn't seem like a blazing speed to you, but I want you to know that he's 57 years old. And the real kicker is he just started running 5 years ago. And he showed me a picture of his pre-runner days, and the difference is remarkable. He had all kinds of health issues. He was overweight. He was on all kinds of medication. Today, he looks like somebody who could get away with wearing these shoes, right? So I asked him, I said, oh, how'd you do it? He said, well, when I first started, I couldn't. I made it down basically to my neighbor's yard, and I didn't want to die right there. So I crawled back to my own house. The next week, it was the same thing, made it a little bit further. But finally, after a few weeks, he made it up to 7 minutes. Now, his wife says it was because he could no longer see the house, so he might as well just keep on going. But 7 minutes became 15 minutes, became 30 minutes, became 2 hours. And I asked him, I said, well, do you love running? You have to love running. You're one of those people who love it. He said, no, it's the worst. He literally said that. He said, the first 7 minutes are the hardest. But after I get past that point, it becomes a little bit more bearable. And I thought that for us, so you don't have to love something to do it well, but you do have to have focus, specifically focus on small incremental steps, right? So a series of small wins leads to great results. So I want to ask you, what are your 7 minutes? What is a small, tiny micro goal that you can focus in on doing on a daily basis? Has anybody ever used WD-40 in this room? I use it all the time. I just randomly start spraying stuff that I hear squeaking, you know. Has anybody heard of WD-39? No? Okay. Well, Dr. Norm Larson was a chemist working for NASA, and he was trying to solve the issue of corrosion on the space shuttles. And it was due to a large amount of moisture and condensation. So he developed a formula that displaced water from any surface. Thus, water displacement formula number 40 was born. Can anyone guess how many tries it took Larson to get this formula just right? And the difference between formula number 39 and 40 was minuscule. It was one chemical compound that made the final difference. And I was thinking about this again for us. What if he had given up right at try 39? Have you ever been in a situation where you felt like you gave up too soon? I know I have. I was from primary school up until 10th grade, I was the model student. I mean, look at me. I was thick glasses, bowl haircut, high pants, straight A's though, right? And I ran into a buzzsaw, and her name was Ms. Ryan. She was my AP physics teacher. And it was in her class I failed my first ever exam. I thought, surely she must be mistaken. She said, Phil, you're smart, but you're lazy. And to be fair, she wanted me to do things like show up for every class and do homework. And I thought, oh my gosh, this wasn't the deal, right? So 1.2 million students drop out of high school every year. I don't know if that number is astoundingly high to you. And of those 1.2 million, I'm ashamed to say this, but less than 3% are of Asian descent. Less than 3%. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to share with you that I am Asian. And I'm a high school dropout. I was an outlier for all the wrong reasons. And it was in 1995, as my high school classmates were going up to stage to get their diplomas, I was basically on the couch. I was a mass of self-pity, just feeling sorry for myself. And after a couple days, I realized that I had my father helped me realize that I had two choices. He said, Phil, you could find a way to finish school and go to college, or you could go to the military. I found out real quick that all college applications had the same language: high school diploma or equivalency. I don't know if you guys know this or not. So I was like, I need to find out what equivalency means. So I went to something called the Yellow Pages. I'm not sure if you've heard of that, but this was pre-Google. And I found a testing center. And it was me and a group of veterans and single moms and adult learners. And it was really, in a lot of ways, I was very humbled, right? But I had to start somewhere. So I got my GED, check. I verified to see if my SAT scores were still valid, check. I even applied to some colleges, check. I got into one, hallelujah. It was one small step after another. And the irony is, of course, now that as a college professor myself, I now teach my students the value of showing up, the value of turning in your homework. And it's just an ultimate irony, because I just wasn't there, right? So, again, a series of small wins leads to great results. And I was thinking about this, particularly in my life. Honestly, the big changes, the big significant life-altering changes don't often happen in big life-altering moments. They happen in small, incremental changes. I am now a business professor at Walsh University. We are a small Catholic private liberal arts school in North Canton. And I love my job. I love my students. But one of the best parts of my job is I get to be the faculty advisor for a student-run initiative called The Garage. And this was actually founded by 4 students. They wanted a place to meet, to collaborate, and to create, but there really wasn't anything like that. So they scoured the campus And they actually found this junk storage space, which was at one point a literal garage. I don't know how students find these little nooks and crannies, but they found a space. And they had no money, they had no connections, no influence, but they had an idea. And they started asking questions. So they went to the faculty first, and then they had a meeting with the maintenance staff. Hey, what are we using this space for? And eventually, they had a meeting with the president of the university. And he is an entrepreneur himself, so he got it right away, and he green-lighted the project. Well, a year later, we transformed this almost dirt floor junk storage space into a state-of-the-art student innovation and collaboration center. It's incredible. In the past year, we've hosted innovation challenges and hackathons. We've had keynote speakers. It's just been a wonderful story for the students. But one of the key tools that they use to vet an idea is called the MVP. What is your minimum viable product? So students will come with these great ideas. Hey, I want to start a landscaping business that also cuts your hair. Actually, that's not a bad idea, but then they do your laundry too, and oh, by the way, we'll do your taxes. It's like, no. Let's take a step back. Let's try to find out the core essence of what you're trying to do, what business problem you're trying to solve, and let's go with that. What's your MVP? So I would ask that question of you as well. What's your MVP? It's the Instagram story all over again, right? Don't bog us down with all these features and benefits and ancillary things that don't matter. Get to what your core essence is. So for you, you might have a laundry list of things to do, but I want you to ask yourselves, what is my MVP? What is the one thing that I need to get done before I move on to the next great idea that I have? And I want you to start there. As one of the great philosophers of our time, Mike Tyson, once said, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. It's true. Try it. So everyone's got these plans and schemas and ideas and pro formas of what their lives are going to look like 2 to 3 years from now. Well, I want to go the opposite direction. I want to know, what are you going to do this day? Not 2 years from now. Because our brains don't really work in years and weeks and even days, right? Our brains work in hours, in minutes, and some would even say seconds. The latest research on this says that the average human attention span is 8 seconds. You guys heard this? I know, it's incredible. So you've forgotten everything that I said up until like the last 8 seconds. When compared to the average attention span of a goldfish at 9 seconds. Is that insane? It's crazy. First of all, I don't know how they quantify these numbers. And then secondly, I want to follow some goldfish to see what I'm missing, right? But the point is, you probably don't need more plans or schemas. What you need is more implementation, right? And you probably don't even need more, dare I say, TED Talks. I mean, other than this one, you need this one. But you don't need more plans, you need more action, right? So a series of small wins leads to great results. And my final point is, you need community. The most effective and powerful way to have change in your life and to move forward in your goals is to not go alone, right? TED is just a classic example of that. We're all in the community and we're banding together. There was a study done on goal setting by Dr. Gail Matthews from Dominican University in California, and she divided her study population into 5 groups. In group 1, she asked them to think about a problem, a business problem, or goal rather, that they wanted to accomplish. Group 2, they were told they needed to write the goal down. Group 3, they had to provide action steps towards their goals. Group 4 had to tell somebody, and group 5, all they needed to do was do all those things and then add a weekly status report. At the end of the study, what they found was those in group 5 had a 76% success rate on all of their projects and goals, compared to group 1 that only had a 43% success rate. See, it takes intentional accountability. I've been part of this accountability group at Walsh with 4 of my colleagues. And we have a rule. Every Wednesday, we have to update each other on how we're doing on our projects. Actually, specifically how we're doing on our one main goal for that week. For the last 3 years, we've been doing this. And not coincidentally, for the past 3 years, they've been the most productive years of our careers. Out of that group of about, there's 5 faculty members, we've had about 20 conference papers and presentations. We've written 3 or 4 books, multiple book chapters. We've even won some teaching and scholarship awards. And I share this with you, honestly, not to boast, because if you met each of us, you wouldn't be impressed at all. Honestly, I bore myself. But it speaks to, again, the power of small wins and intentional accountability. And I'll end with this. I don't want to paint the audience with a broad brush, but has anyone else in this room been raised by first-generation Korean American immigrants? No? Okay, great. So here's your first Korean lesson. And I want you to say it with me. 시작이 반이다. Okay, say it again. 시작이 반이다. Great. And that literally translates to 시작, which means the start, and 반, which means half. So the start is half the task. My dad would say this to me all the time. I ignored it until now. The start is half the task. So think big, start small, but whatever you do, I do want you to start. And in our digital age of uber multitasking, I am convinced that we are stressed to the max. We are constantly trying to overdo things. Our attention spans are shorter than ever. There's a Confucian saying that says, if you chase both rabbits, you catch neither. My friends, I am convinced that we are chasing too many rabbits. We need to start with one. Thank you.